Good afternoon, everyone. I'm very happy. We're very happy that you were able to take a few minutes out of your busy schedules to join us today for this truly important presentation. My name is Oleg Schiller. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Oz Capital and Oz Group of Companies. For those of you who don't know us, Oz Capital is an alternative mortgage lender. And the purpose of today's presentation is to really talk about the most important or one of the most important aspects of our lives, and that's helping our kids get through post-secondary education and give them enough ammunition or money or resources to start their mature life as debt-free as possible. Just a bit of a preamble. I remember when I was pursuing post-secondary education, went to university. This was 1998. It was pretty expensive at the time, of course, but not nearly as expensive as what the costs are today. So looking back, it wasn't cheap. With inflation and given that it's been close to 30 years, the costs are astronomical. So if you kind of dissect it into two parts, if our kids are pursuing post-secondary education and they live locally and they can come home and study from home and go to university, it's one set of costs. But if they live on campus, the costs are very, very expensive. So what can be done? I believe that Us Capital is able to provide answers and show you solutions to what we can do, how we can start and help our kids succeed in future and not start with a humongous debt in their present financial. Without further ado, I would like to pass the word to Denis Rudenko to launch this presentation.
Thanks, Oleg, and I wholeheartedly agree with you. So without further ado, I'm Denis, as Oleg said. I'm the head of national sales at Oz Capital. And today I'm very excited to talk to you about why we do what we do, how we achieve our impressive results, and how you can benefit by working with us today. So as we said, our focus today is going to be specifically on the RESP, or the Registered Education Savings Plan. Before we start, though, I'd like to briefly touch upon, as I usually do, a story from my personal experience. So we immigrated to Toronto from Kiev, Ukraine, back in 1993 with my parents. At that point, I had no idea why we moved halfway across the world to do this, to start a new life and uproot our old one. As I got older, I realized that we moved here to deal with some health issues that I'd had as a child that would be better dealt with in a country like Canada. So essentially, my parents gave up everything for my benefit, and they continued to do so well into my teens, 20s, and they still support me today. Part of that support came in the form of an RESP account that they opened for me when we first arrived in Canada. Despite not having almost no money, working menial jobs and trying to get their feet under them, my parents, both highly educated in our home country, knew and understood that aside from my health, the next most important thing was my higher education. With this support, I was able to complete a degree in economics and finance. It's thanks to their foresight and prudent financial decisions to plan for my future that I'm sitting in front of you here today. So stability is key as we think about saving for the future. And I can tell you that Oz Capital is a great way to ensure your children's future. I'll give you a moment to read what's on the slide. One word jumps out at me on that slide, and it's a scary word when you think about the future. That word is unpredictability. I'll tell you a great story that at least I think it's a great story about unpredictability that I always like to bring out. So I'm lucky enough that I can split my time between my place here in Toronto and farm up north, a couple hours north of the city. So the other day I was home alone at the farm with my two dogs, taking a shower, getting ready for a client meeting early morning. All of a sudden, one of my dogs starts barking like a maniac. Tried yelling for her to stop, but something in her bark, the urgency, made me jump out of the shower and run to the living room to see what was going on. Well, turns out she was barking for a pretty good reason. Next to my car in front of the house, there was about 10 cows that were snacking on some freshly grown grass. Now, I don't have any cows, I thought to myself. Turns out that a neighbor's a neighbor's cows from a kilometer up the road had escaped their enclosure and decided to have a nice breakfast on my lawn. So, with the help of another neighbor, we soon had them back in their enclosure and safe and sound. Now, this was unpredictability. This type of unpredictability is unfortunately something that Oz cannot help you minimize in your life. We're not very good cow whisperers. But when it comes to your finances, this is what we at Oz bring to the table. A predictable, uncomplicated, and conservative alternative investment fund that is backed by real assets in the form of residential real estate in Ontario. Our goal is to bring peace of mind to your finances. Now, let's take a minute to understand what a mortgage investment corporation is and why MICs have grown in popularity in recent years. Look at this awesome chart in front of you. Do you understand it? Yeah, I don't really either, but that's okay. Well, I do, but I don't blame. It's a little bit complicated, and let me put it in simple terms. So a MIC is a pool of investors' money, which is invested in a portfolio of mortgages. MICs can lend on a variety of properties in Canada and offer investors the opportunity for an alternative asset-backed investment. So the interest earned on that pool or portfolio of mortgages then gets passed along to the investors in the form of monthly distributions or monthly income, if you will. Now, although MICs have been around for many years, since 1973, in fact, it is only recently that they've grown in popularity and in use. The major reason behind this surge is something called B20 legislation, introduced in 2012. Maybe a small percentage of you heard about that, but I'm sure you've all heard about mortgage stress tests and things like that. So simply put, it became much more difficult for individuals to qualify for mortgages at banks. And this created a great opportunity for alternative lenders like Oz Capital, who are able to look at individuals on a case-by-case basis and not just tick off boxes on a bank eligibility form. People need creative financing and not restrictive financing. So while every investment you make has some level of risk, the key is being compensated appropriately for that level of risk and having a partner in place to make sure that the risks do not outweigh the benefits. So how do we at Oz ensure our investors are in good hands? We always start with the people. Our key people have over 65 years of combined underwriting experience and expertise. Both of our founders are former mortgage brokers. And then our head underwriter has many years of institutional style underwriting experience. He's led a credit department for a major bank. We like to say bad things happen to good people, or everyone can have a bad day and miss something. At Oz, we ensure that nothing slips through the cracks by having our top 3 sets of eyes on every single deal that we underwrite. We also only lend on liquid residential real estate in Ontario. What does that mean? Well, we lend on urban and suburban homes that look like other homes on the street. I'm not talking about the color of the brick or siding. I'm talking about homes that are easily compared to other homes in that area or neighborhood and are easily valued or appraised, which makes them easy to market and liquidate should the need arise. And why do we only lend in Ontario? Well, Ontario is the most lender-friendly province in Canada. In Ontario, a lender can trigger what's called the power of sale process 15 days after non-payment. Now, in practice at Oz, we try to work with our borrowers and get them back on track to make sure that they make their payments and achieve their goals. But if things don't go according to plan, we always have the power of sale process to fall back on. We also only lend short-term loans. Typically, our loans are 6 to 12 months maximum. This allows us the opportunity to pivot quickly based on market conditions. As conditions change, we can quickly change our lending criteria to either take advantage of or reduce the risk in the portfolio. Now, because all the loans are short-term in nature, it's really important to make sure that our borrowers have a clear and achievable exit strategy. So whether that means selling the property or improving their credit and refinancing with a traditional lender, we make sure that that is in place prior to lending the money. And last but not least, every dollar secured is secured through real estate, and arguably some of the best real estate in the world in Ontario. So hopefully you have a much better understanding of what a MIC is and how we manage Oz Capital MIC. And here are the results. Steady, reliable income, month after month and year after year. This is what we mean when we talk about being able to sleep at night. The chart you see shows Oz MIC versus a basket of North American stocks and a basket of Canadian bonds. Oz MIC is the orange line. So when I think about growing an RESP account, I'd much rather have my kids' money growing steadily in Oz MIC than doing this as the markets move up and down. Let's shift gears now and talk about focus on you, the investor, and specifically what we chose to highlight today, which is the RESP as our case study. I'll go through first the 5 benefits an RESP plan offers. So, benefit number 1. To me, this is the biggest one of them all. Free money from the government. Let me repeat that. Free money from the government. That doesn't happen very often, does it? So, through the Canada Education Savings Grant, or CESG, a family can receive up to $7,200 in free money, or more potentially if it's a mid or lower income family. Tax deferred growth. So while the money that you put in as contributions into an RESP is not tax deductible, when that money gets taken out of the RESP plan to pay for a child's education, it is actually taxed in the child's tax bracket, or at the student's tax rate, if you will, and not the parents. So typically you're saving quite a bit of tax because most parents are making a lot more money than their kids. Next slide, we can see that RESPs are actually, as much as their education saving plans, and we talk about kids, they can stay active for up to 36 years, which is quite a long time. So if your child or grown child decides to go to school later on in life and that RESP is still active, they can choose to do so. And they're very flexible in terms of the types of programs that they are eligible for. So things like trade schools, which are becoming increasingly popular, again, university, college, even some international studies are eligible. Now, again, there's a whole list and there's a whole bunch of criteria around this, so it's always good to check. But they're quite flexible with the types of things you can use the money for, as long as it's for education or higher education. Minimal impact in terms of getting student loans or getting a grant if you've got a child who's athletically gifted or intellectually gifted and they're wishing to get some extra money for their studies. Well, RESP withdrawals aren't considered income, so they don't have any impact on those types of programs that are available out through different schools and grants and whatnot. And last but not least, RESPs are pretty flexible. So let's say your first child decides not to go to school. Well, you know what? You can always transfer that money over to their sibling should they wish to go to school. They can also be transferred to the parents' RRSP. Again, there's certain limits, and I'm simplifying things a little bit. Up to $50,000 from an RESP plan can go back into a parent's RRSP plan with like no tax consequences. So hopefully that kind of shows some of the benefits of an RESP plan, aside from helping you, obviously, your children go to school. So we've developed what I like to call our optimal RESP strategy. Now, this isn't something that everyone has to follow. I just basically said, okay, the lifetime contributions to an RESP plan are $50,000. what is the best way to invest that in such a way that A, you still attract the maximum amount of free money or grant from the government, and that you maximize the account value at the end of the year while investing in OSMIC. So here's what we came up with, and I crunched the numbers, and I do have all the math behind this. I've got a very lengthy spreadsheet. So the way it's done is you begin by front loading the account. That is putting in a bigger chunk of capital on day one. So you put in $16,500 on day one, while still leaving enough contribution room for future years to attract the full amount of CSG. Then for the next 13 years, you add $2,500 to your plan. And in year 15, you're left with the last contribution amount to make the 50,000 lifetime maximum contribution of $1,000 in that last year. And you can see down below on the chart, those are the results. So you've contributed $50,000 over the lifetime, over the first 15 years of the plan. You've attracted $7,200 in grant money. 140,000 of that total at the end is growth from being invested all of those years into OSMIC. So the total value at age 18 of your plan is almost $200,000. Okay. Now, as Oleg alluded to, education's pretty expensive these days. So I looked it up, and these numbers are fairly recent. The average cost of a 4-year degree in residence is $96,000. That's a pretty penny, and that does not include, things like books, computers, which are all things that an RESP plan can be used towards, providing the child is attending school. And this is that example that I was just talking about, illustrated on a graph here. So again, starting with that 16.5 and then adding kind of bit by bit every year. So again, you've got the $96,000 cost, so you're left with, about $100,000 or just under, after paying for an average 4-year university degree in Canada. So that money, again, can be used for another sibling. It could potentially be used to take out and put into a parent's RSP account, and then also fulfill other needs for the child during school, such as, again, residence fees, books, computers, what have you. That's our scenario. And let's, again, switch gears and bring it back to, how do you invest with us? So I am a licensed dealing representative with the Ontario Securities Commission. I am licensed under our exempt market dealer, which is Belco, and I also obviously work with Oz or for Oz. And I'm here to ensure a smooth process from our initial consultation all the way through to the opening of your accounts and investing with Oz. So the process is simple. We would have an initial consultation or an initial call, essentially. I'd provide my recommendations on how I think you should proceed. If everything is good, we would complete a KYC form, account opening forms. I would do most of the paperwork and have you sort of walk you through everything, get everything signed, open your accounts, and invest in Oz Capital. That's it's as simple as that. So again, for us, the most important thing is our client. We're able to help our clients by providing a stable and reliable investment solution, which is professionally managed by our seasoned team. You can invest directly with us without going through a middleman, or you can invest via your financial advisor. OSMIC is available in all account types, and of course, the awesome RESP account. Most of all, if we bring it back, we aim to get rid of the unpredictability when it comes to your finances. We know every client is unique. We know every situation is unique. I'll personally be your financial concierge at Oz to guide you along the way and secure your financial future. You can see my contact info below. That is my cell phone, which I have right here. My email will be on the follow-up recording that we send of everything, and I hope you guys reach out to me. So thank you everyone for joining us here today. and let's open it up to some questions. Again, myself and Oleg are here to answer any questions that you might have for us today. I'll give you all a couple minutes to digest that. I know it was a lot of information. Okay, so I've got one that just came in via email. So the question about the max sort of the maximum amount, and do we have to follow the plan, the optimal plan, by investing $16,500 up front? The short answer is no. I mean, you can listen, you can invest $1,000 a year. The only real rule around RESPs is that you can't invest more than $50,000 into the plan. It's a quite complicated structure to the plan in order to attract the maximum amount of grant. You get 20% of your contributions attract grants. So if you put in $1,000, you get, $200 in grant for that year. So the way I set up the scenario again is just to show sort of the most optimal way to do it in terms of making the most money, which you can see is quite a bit. Like that's really enough to fund two children's education. So, potentially with half of that or just a little bit over half of those contributions, you'd likely have enough money for most university and college degrees in Canada, unless you're talking about med school or law school or something like that, which is a much more intense and lengthier program, obviously. And again, I'm here to answer questions like afterwards. If you guys want to email me or shoot me a call, I'm happy to do so. Let's give it another minute or so. See if anyone has anything, and then if not, I guess we can wrap it up. Oleg, do you want to talk about anything on your end before we jump off? Did you put your money into an RESP for your children? I know you did.
Course, of course. I just want to say that, just like your parents, we came from Ukraine in the early 90s, and of course, my parents had no means, and I mean no means to pay for my post-secondary education. And realizing the opportunity, how important education is, it was basically left to me to figure things out. So I've taken on a loan. Luckily, I was able to pay the loan off completely, but we're talking substantially smaller amounts, and the economy was completely different. Now things are extremely more expensive. So I've taken on early steps, way early steps, to make sure that both of my beautiful children have enough for their education should they decide to pursue post-secondary education. Um, but again, I can't stress this enough how important planning of your financial affairs is, especially in today's uncertain economic environment. The best thing we can do, the earlier we start planning, especially for our kids' education, the better the results will be. My biggest thing with my children is I want to make sure that when they start their life, responsible life, that they're debt free from the educational perspective standpoint. I don't think it serves any justice if our kids starting with $100,000 debt, now they're looking to accumulate and save money and buy their first house and get going, but they have that big student loan that's kind of pulling them behind. So I'm a big proponent of let's start early. Let's start now. That's basically it for me.
Absolutely. Okay, well, I think we'll wrap it up there. I love talking about this stuff because I think it's such an important topic as you pointed out, Oleg. And I'm available for conversations. If you have any questions, please shoot them my way. Please get in touch, and we'll be sure to follow up with everyone that's. Oh, hang on a second. Sorry, I think there's a question that came in. How does the RESP tie into the MIC? So, I mean, essentially, the RESP plan, we're just talking about, we're highlighting different plans that the MIC can be used within. So it's one of those things that, again, we're highlighting different plans in this webinar series that we're doing. So we've done one on the TFSA. We're basically trying to educate investors about, the different types of investment vehicles that are available for Canadians in Canada, obviously. And again, we're just talking about how we're using OSMIC as a product that can be eligible, that is eligible for registered plans, and we're using it as a very stable and steady sort of investment that can go into any of these plans. So today we chose to highlight the RESP plan because we think it's quite important as far as understanding that for every parent out there and every Canadian and every future parent. So that's how it ties in. And if you have other plans, like if you have other questions about other plans, again, we're available across the board. This was just sort of the focus for us today. Okay, I think that's it. I don't see anything else coming in. So everyone, thank you so much for joining us, and please do reach out if you have any further questions. Thanks so much. Have a good day.
Thank you very much.